Need some beans for the chowder here.
I did see the news that 5 is getting remastered. I am extremely hyped. It's going to be coming in the form of Classified, featuring the Ultimis crew, and I'll share my theories in a little bit. But this is something that Blundell talked about, which I think has been mentioned too much, and it's kind of how you'll see the new story intertwined with the original one. It's still considered a new story in the sense that it's going to be on its own feet, and it'll expand in ways that we haven't seen before, in ways that there's no baggage, I guess you can say, where it doesn't have to be held back by this storyline about the Shadow Man or about Nazis or 115. So that's kind of how it's going to play out. But then eventually, I'd say towards the end of the season, possibly maybe even sooner, we might see some interconnection with, oh, the Chronorium's here or Dr. Monty is there. And then you'll kind of get that connection. After you already invested in a new story, when you start to like it is when you'll probably see that interconnection. So here's what he says about that.
When you're starting a new crew, for its success, you need to really kind of think it all the way down the line. But then also, for people who are driven by narrative and our kind of storytelling, it's also important not to tell it in order, but for it not to be timey-wimey for the sake of it, if you will. Yeah. So Voyage and 9 are 2 key points in the storyline that will be told. Okay. But I'm not saying necessarily where they are in that storyline.
So, but it is. So it sounds there is interconnectedness.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. But that's the, that's the part that we also want the fans to kind of investigate. So as they're playing, when they're saying about you're not going to get the same line every single time, whoever's next to each other, that's going to allow them to start kind of connecting those threads. The timeline coming out in Chronicles was appropriate because everyone had been through that stuff. Yeah. This one, I would put the challenge out to the community to start making the timeline before I have to.
Yeah, challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Wow.
You also announced you're doing a 4th map, Classified, right?
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go, baby.
Questions you guys want to hear.
4 maps on launch, man. We couldn't ask for more.
So,
seriously.
Break it down. What can you tell us?
What can I tell you?
Unclassified.
The clues
Coliseum.
the clues in the title. Well, it's going to be based in the Pentagon.
Yes. There we go. I don't know if it's going to be the same area as 5, but...
This guy just gave him a shake. Was that your guess? Okay, there's a bet. What was the bet?
Which crew, then?
Oh, he challenged them.
Okay, let me tell you this one. Okay. So it's the original crew. Wow. So it's the Ultimis gang.
That is so fucking sick, though.
So
I read this earlier. I'm like, wait, what?
Black Ops 4 is going to have our Premise crew.
He has the same hat I'm wearing. There you go.
Ultimis crew and our new gang as well.
Wow.
So
all right, Jason.
And that's gonna set up some of the craziness that we saw in 5. Why did that happen?
There you go. So it's a prequel.
All that kind of good stuff. And,
that almost confirms that this is a prequel. It's original 5.
A wonderful style. We're kind of approaching it in a very unique way artistically.
Oh wow. Okay.
But it also kind of folds into all those kind of mechanisms that we talked about on the reveal. So the kind of custom mutations and so forth. All that stuff then works as well. So every map that we're doing all works with the challenger system and so forth. So not only is it a kind of brand new take on that part of the storyline, and obviously a joy to go back and update it and modernize it, but it's a new part in the story also.
I mean, it's just it's insane how much stuff has to interconnect and all be sort of planned together. I mean, when you and this is being developed alongside the 3 that'll come out at launch.
Yeah, the whole team is busying away right now.
Fully fledged zombie maps.
Take these guys home because they've got to go back to work. So,
exactly.
After this project.
So I think it's safe to say that this map is very well underway, and it is in no way ready for the community to see it. And we could see a reveal of at least the opening intro, maybe at Comic-Con. We just have to wait and see how that works out. But the fact that the Ultimis crew is on this map just means that we're going to get some gaps filled in, maybe in between Kino and Ascension, or maybe even something before Kino happens, and maybe our Ultimis crew makes a visit to the Pentagon in a different timeline and sort of affects how 5 actually comes out to play. Because we do know that there is a portrait of Dr. Richtofen in one of the offices in the map 5. So obviously in the Official Zombies timeline, it is explained as to why Group 935 is relevant, but there could be some more, like Blundell was saying, that we didn't get to see obviously in game or even on the official timeline that may have occurred and could have impacted major events in the zombie story, which we would have never expected. So I think it's cool. We're going to be getting this new crew in 9 and Voyage of Despair. We get the Premise crew in Blood of the Dead, and then we get the Ultimis crew on the map Classified. To me, that's just absolutely insane. I'm just excited to see the return of the Pentagon Thief, which I'm assuming will make his return, and probably in a different way. Maybe not exactly the same as the original map, but you could almost say that this map is going to be similar to the Giant in the sense that it's close to a remaster of the original, but it has sort of some remade elements with a different crew, possibly a different Easter egg. People are kind of debating right now whether or not it's going to be exactly like the Giant in the sense that there's only a very, very small side Easter egg, which obviously has relevance to the story, but isn't really a major quest compared to the other maps, which are going to be 9, Voyage of Despair, and Blood of the Dead, which are set to have full-fledged Easter eggs. And obviously the Giant had that very small Annihilator Easter egg, which had some relevance to unlocking the Super Easter egg in Black Ops 3 Zombies. But I personally think Classified is going to have a pretty decent sized Easter egg. I'm going to assume it's something like Ascension, where it's pretty brief, very simple, but does have some pretty major importance to the story, and you get a pretty nice reward towards the ending. But I'd say the Easter egg on Classified, if there is one, would end with us somehow connecting the dots between that map, which is supposed to be a prequel to the original 5, and then, of course, the map we all know and love with our 5 crew, the President, Secretary of Defense, Fidel Castro, and who was it? Richard Nixon as well. So that's going to be a pretty cool little story to play around with. And of course, we're able to hear the events of 5 when we're playing Ascension. So obviously, whatever happens in Classified will probably be something that's already been hinted on a different map. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But other than that, 4 zombie maps at launch. I just can't believe it. I want to see the return of the Winter's Howl. I want to see the bonfire cell drop come back, you know, being able to pack a punch for 1,000 points. Those are things that have been long forgotten. And obviously, 5 isn't everybody's first choice for a remastered map, but I think obviously they're giving some huge story significance here. So we have 2 maps for the new story, 2 maps for the original story. It's being rumored right now we're only going to be getting 4 maps, or 4 more maps over the course of the DLC season. So does that mean 2 more maps for the new story, 2 more maps for the old story? I'm really not sure. I'm going to bet on 4 maps for the new story and possibly a second season pass that comes out, which will have 4 maps for the original story. Not exactly sure how it's going to work out, but it's been said by Blundell himself we're going to see 2 zombies menus at launch. So I don't think they're really going to have 2 separate menus just to say, okay, well, we have 4 zombie maps for the original story and 4 zombie maps for the new story. I'd say they'd go with 6 to 8 per story to really make Black Ops 4 a rich experience. I think another interesting point is that 9 and Voyage of Despair could actually take place in a different order that we might not understand until more zombie maps under the new story actually release. So for all we know, Voyage of Despair could take place, then another map, then 9, or some other order like that. Blundell did kind of elaborate on how intertwining the story is always very interesting, and how the maps don't necessarily take place in a way that we can understand right now. So they also take place in a certain point of the timeline, which he's going to challenge us to figure out. So what I get from that is that maybe at some point towards the end of the new storyline in B04, we could get this massive Easter egg where we kind of understand, oh, you know, this new story actually takes place alongside X. Let's say it's the Victus crew, for example, and then we're gonna be like, holy shit, they made an entire new story that at the very end still connects with what we're all used to. Because I don't really think they're gonna go with this new story and kind of say, fuck the ether, we're going with something completely different, we'll never ever reference the ether in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it could be something as small as the Chronorium, as we see on the multiplayer map Citadel in B03 multiplayer. They put the Chronorium there for a reason. It has to have some type of relevance towards the lore we're going to be seeing in Voyage of Despair and even the map 9. So I am assuming at some point in time, it may take a little while, but they will end up connecting the storylines in a way where there isn't baggage to the new storylines crew. It could be something, like I said, very, very small, even a Dr. Monty reference, something very interesting where it could be like Monty said, you know what, I'm controlling these universes, I want to take control of these and sort of conquer these people, but you know what, this little universe over here, I'll just leave that to somebody else, you know, he can take care of that. So it could be something like that, and I'd be really interested to see how that all fits in with the official timeline. But I'm really excited. We have 4 zombie maps at launch, one of them being a Mob of the Dead remake, another one being a 5 remake, and then we have 2 new completely different maps something that we haven't seen before. And you guys let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about the E3 Coliseum conference with Jason Blundell and co. I think talking about the history of zombies is very important every year, because history may stay the same, but there are certain elements that don't always come to light until a certain point in time. And just about every year when Trek talks about the history of zombies, we get a new little bit of information that we didn't know from the previous years that they talked about the history of zombies, because things come out of the archive, new information comes out, and people are allowed to say certain things, and that's kind of how these conferences go. But let me know what you guys think.